Hi, my name is Melissa Watson. I'm a teacher from Aveley Secondary College. Today you'll be joining me in my Year 10 Humanities class as we study geography and the barriers to human wellbeing. Come take a look. So very briefly, let's have a look at this map here. This is a corruption perception index map. Now the bluer the colour, the less perceived corruption by the people who live in that country. The redder or pinker that colour, the higher the level of perceived corruption, okay? So my question to you, this links to our idea of political instability. So this is a government that is not working for its people, okay? They're focused on their own goals. Outline how political instability and corruption causes spatial inequality with your partner. Very briefly, how can that stop someone from experiencing wellbeing? Have a quick chat. So thinking about if you lived in a country with a corrupt government, how would that impact on your human well-being? What do you think? Yeah, you wouldn't feel safe?
You would not like your government, so you would actively go against them.
Absolutely.
Or you would fear that they would do something to you.
Definitely. So potentially more protests, more violent protests, and fear of the government, definitely. And 3, 2, 1. Could you share with us what you discussed, please, Bella?
If you live in a country where you believe that your government is corrupt, you can fear your government and fear that they might do something to you or your family, which can cause and lead to violent protests.
Definitely. So the potential that people are fearing a lot of fear towards their government, potentially also that there might be violent protests in response to that government not looking out for your well-being. What did you discuss, please, Amelia Z?
That if the government in a country puts more money towards like the military and services and not buildings, then people are going to end up like homeless, not being able to get their resources to survive.
Absolutely. So last lesson we discussed how a lot of money, a lot of government money is used to pay for the military, for example. So that's not focusing on things that people need like hospitals, schools, good quality infrastructure. Amelia also mentioned that there may be higher amounts of people who are homeless or not living in safe homes or facilities. Fantastic. So last lesson we were talking about how this can lead to displacement. This can lead to mistrust in the government. Today we're going to be building on that and look further into things which are creating barriers to people experiencing wellbeing or to a country being able to achieve wellbeing for its people. And why are we doing this? Okay, what is the purpose? Being able to describe barriers to improving human wellbeing is important because thinking yourselves as a high school student moving into year 11, being able to describe is an important skill, okay? Regardless of which path you're going on, you're going to need to be able to do that. So that's you as a student, okay? Thinking now, you as someone who's going to be leaving this school, okay? You may find yourselves impacted by these types of things. This is something which is active in Australia, okay? We are not immune to this. Taking it a step further, you might be in a profession where things like poverty, lack of access to water are things that maybe you're trying to achieve for people or you're trying to educate people about. You might become a human rights lawyer. You might become a teacher. You might work for a charity organisation. You might work for the Water Corp. So these are the types of things which could impact your day-to-day working life as well. Okay, let's make a start at actually figuring out what spatial variation versus spatial inequality is. So you'll see on your sheet, you have a few fill in the blanks. So our first one is spatial variation. So this is the difference or variation over an area of the Earth's surface. And we can use things like population density or GDP to measure it. So we're actually using some quantifiable data to back up our discussion. Spatial inequality, on the other hand, is the unequal distribution of resources and services across different locations. So that's what we were looking at last lesson. This idea that infrastructure resources are not spread equally across a population. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to get those bolded items onto your sheet. And then let's have a go at comparing these two concepts because they do sound quite similar. Another 15 seconds, just getting those bolded text down, year 10s. And can I ask for pens down in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Could I ask you please define spatial variation for me, Jamie? What is spatial variation?
Spatial variation is the difference or variation in terms of population density, gross domestic product, life expectancy over an area of the Earth's surface.
Fantastic. Thank you to Jamie. So we're talking about differences of population density. We know in Australia, most of the population is concentrated along the coast. Not many people live in the centre where it's really hot. Okay, and there's a reason for that. So that's spatial variation. What's spatial inequality in comparison, please, Liv?
Spatial inequality is the unequal distribution of resources and services across different locations such as healthcare, welfare, public sectors and income.
Thank you to Liv. So in spatial inequality instead, we're talking about access to certain services and infrastructure. Access to education, access to healthcare, welfare, is that something which is available to people, okay? A simplified version of this is spatial variation equals difference in phenomena over Earth's surface. Can you say phenomena? What's the word? Phenomena. You got it. So what does spatial variation equal, year 10s?
Difference in phenomena over Earth's surface.
Thank you. In comparison, we have spatial inequality, which is the unequal distribution of resources or services. What is spatial inequality, please, year 10s?
Unequal distribution of resources and services.
So if I say we're talking about the unequal distribution of resources and services, what are we talking about, year 10s? And if I'm talking about a difference in a certain phenomena or concept over a region, what am I talking about?
Spatial variation.
Thank you. Let's keep going. So we know there's a great diversity within a country itself. We link a lot back to Australia and how diverse we are in relation to these things. We've also started to talk about how these barriers do tend to impact developing countries at a higher rate, okay? Because they're still going through that process of industrialising their country and building these infrastructure to support their people's well-being. So there are 4 concepts we're going to be looking at today. First one is poverty. What's the first one?
Poverty.
Second one is lack of access to clean water and sanitation. What's number 2, year 10s?
Lack of access to clean water and sanitation.
Number 3 is relatively high levels of illiteracy. What's number 3?
Relatively high levels of literacy.
And number 4, emphasis on primary production. What's number 4?
Emphasis on primary production.
Now, primary production refers to agriculture. If I say agriculture, what am I talking about? How can we simplify it even further? Farming is a great one, okay? So when I'm talking about primary production, what am I talking about, year 10s? Farming, okay. So let's have a look at poverty first. And again, you'll see that there are some boxes for you to fill out for the bolded text on your guided notes. So extreme poverty is common in regions where there is poor health and education impact employment, where there is a depletion of environmental resources. Depletion's an interesting word. What does it mean? Nice and loud for us, Maddie. Something is going down. It is depleting. So if something is depleting, what is it, year 10s?
Going down.
Going down. We've talked about corruption, conflict and poor governance. Now, according to the World Bank data in 2013, 12.7% of the world population lived at or below $1.90 a day. Okay, that is our poverty line. Down from 37% in 1990. So yes, that percentage has decreased, but remember our population has increased significantly. So we need to look into how much does that percentage actually represent. 35% of the world's population lived on less than $4.60 a day, which is down again from 66%. So yes, our data does look like it's on a downward trend, but we do need to turn those percentages into real numbers, okay, to determine if it is as significant as it appears. And countries in sub-Saharan Africa and Southern Asia account for about 40% of extreme poverty. So we can see how this particular barrier is quite concentrated, okay, in specific regions around the world. And there is a variety of reasons why that is the case. And we can see that reflected in our graph as well. So we have sub-Saharan Africa down here and Southeast Asia, where we see the most of our yellow and red colours, which are indicating higher levels of poverty experienced in that region. Just giving everyone another 10 seconds. And can I ask for pens down in 3, 2, 1. With your partner, I'd like you to please discuss the distribution of poverty around the world. Where are you seeing those red and yellow colours the most? So use that graph, have a chat. Where are they concentrated? Have a brief discussion. Off we go, year 10s. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Where are we seeing that distribution, please, Maddie? R.
More in underdeveloped countries.
Absolutely. So Maddie has identified that this is occurring more in underdeveloped regions. Okay, for example?
Not sure.
That's okay. Just describe a region or a continent for me, Maddie. Africa, okay, so we can see in the continent of Africa we have quite a bit of red, orange and yellow. We also see grey, which means there's no data available. So that might mean they don't have the infrastructure to be able to gather this type of information. Yes, Bella?
How come Australia doesn't have any data?
That is an excellent question. This particular map is showing Australia has not provided data for the national poverty line. May have been that we didn't have a census that year, maybe our data was deemed too old. That's a really good question that I'll try to find an answer for. What did you discuss, please, Amelia G?
There's mostly poverty in less developed countries like Africa and South America.
Good. So Amelia has identified that is occurring in developing countries and provided us with some specific regions for us to look at as well. All right, looking at our second one, lack of access to clean water and sanitation. So 663 million people rely on unsafe water sources and 83% of that live in rural areas. So the water they have access to is not safe for them to drink. 38% of people with access to safe drinking water are required to travel to collect that. And that can be both physically difficult and very time consuming. That might be all you do for the day or half a day. Okay, so it's not as simple as turning on the tap. The UN estimates that 2.5 billion people do not use improved sanitation facilities. So what does this mean? So in sub-Saharan Africa, 44% of their people do not have improved sanitation facilities. In Southern Asia, 18%. So we can see that there are some regions that keep propping up, so they are facing multiple barriers. And between 1990 and 2015, 2.1 billion gained access to improved sanitation facilities. So we are seeing improvements as well, just like we saw improvements within our poverty numbers as well. Just giving everyone a moment to jot those couple of figures down. And can I ask for pens down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can I ask that you discuss with your partner, why do you think it's harder to access clean and safe water in rural areas, so farming areas, for example? Have a brief discussion. What about that would make it more difficult? What do you think, Kayla? Absolutely. And why is there less water? Absolutely. So harder for them to build that infrastructure. What did you think, Angus? Definitely. Definitely. Absolutely. So really hard to get all that infrastructure for such a wide space. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What did you discuss, please, Taylor?
I was saying that those areas might be like more populated, so there'd be more demand for like clean water and sanitation.
Yeah, so potentially there might be a higher pocket of people in certain regions in that rural space, so it might be hard to get the water out there. What did you discuss, please, Angus?
The rural areas are bigger areas, so there'll be less water for more people and not safe water as well, and less infrastructure.
Absolutely. So we have a very large, wide space, like multiple farms, for example. People spread out over a large area, may not have the infrastructure built to be able to get that there, or it could be old infrastructure. And lastly, I would like you to please discuss How do you think having to go and collect water might impact people's day-to-day lives? Why might that in itself be a barrier to human well-being? Off we go. Bless you. Yeah. What's up, Hudson?
Writing our names on these?
Yeah, you'll be putting it in your folder. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What do you think, please, Alicia?
It is very time consuming for someone to go collect water and then come back.
Definitely. So it's time consuming. What might that time be used otherwise? How could they use that time instead?
Going to work.
Yeah, going to work, absolutely. So good, okay. So going to work might be something they could do instead of going to collect that water. So that can impact a family's income, their money, for example. What did you discuss, please, Claire?
That like if they're going to get water, then they have less time to do like things for themselves and like take care of themselves.
Absolutely. So on the flip side, not just talking about work, but also no time to look after yourselves. We speak a lot about looking after your own mental health. Giving some time for yourself is essential to living a good life. So that might mean that's something you miss out on if you have to spend large portions of your day going to collect water. That's a great answer. Thank you, Claire. Okay, we have relatively high levels of illiteracy. So the average adult literacy is 99% in developed countries, 76% in developing countries. So that means your ability to read and write. And it is 54% in least developed countries. So we've spread it out even further. So from 2008 to 2011, the number of children not attending school decreased. So again, we are seeing positive, positive trends, okay? So yes, more kids are attending school, which is really positive. However, we need to look at which areas these kids are living in. Are they living in specific regions? Are specific countries missing out on having educated children? So the number of children receiving primary education is improving, but that rate is starting to slow in recent years. So yes, we were able to get more kids into primary schools, but we're now starting to see what could be the beginning of a downward trend, and that's going to be really significant in the decades to come if you have a lot of young people who are not literate